Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So, I'm recording this off my phone right now because I don't have enough time to hop on a computer and record this, but I'll put this together later. So I watched Speed Racer last night with my friends, and I'd seen it before. This is my second time seeing the movie. The first time I watched it, I didn't really know anything about Speed Racer, and I thought this is just so weird and kind of a stupid movie. And then I watched the animated series with my brother, though unfortunately that was like 2 years ago, so I don't really remember everything. Or no, this is my third time seeing it. I'm sorry, because I watched it with my brother. We watched the movie, and that was really cool to be able to get a lot more of the references and stuff and kind of more background with the series. And then, like a couple years later, now I'm rewatching it with my friends. But it was fun watching it with my friends because it's such like kind of a wacky movie. What was kind of surprising though is I thought like visually the movie's so ridiculous and kind of just very silly and stuff. I thought we would end up kind of making fun of it more, kind of talking more. It was really weird. Like normally when we're watching movies together, the group's very chatty and stuff. But this time it was actually mostly silent to the point where it kind of felt like it was just me and one other person that was watching compared to everyone else. But yeah, it was like dead silent for most of the movie. That was just funny to me. That's like the exact opposite of what I expected. We did make jokes about the characters and the movie and stuff, and that was kind of fun. And there was like still vaguely some things I remembered from watching the anime. But this is just such a weird movie. It kind of reminds me of like Spy Kids because the really shitty like CGI and the constant use of green screen. Sorry, I'm recording this in the morning, so my throat's a little bit bleh. It's like the super duper duper very kind of oversaturated colors of like Pushing Daisies. Actually, I'd say visually it kind of reminds me a little bit more of like Pushing Daisies, but with the weird vibe and visual style of like the Spy Kids movies. And I like both of those series, Spy Kids and Pushing Daisies. I'm not trying to make fun of them too much. But yeah, visual wise, this movie's like bonkers. Honestly, we kept thinking that Speed was autistic because the characters mention multiple times about how invested he is with cars. Like literally, the start of the movie is also funny to me, where it's like a childhood flashback of Speed, and he's like taking some kind of test in school or something, and he's drawing two cars crashing into each other and pretending that he's in a race and making noises and stuff, and then this his eventual girlfriend Trixie, but like this is when they're kids, so it's a flashback. She looks over at him and he's just like mouthing sounds, but there's like no sound coming out or anything. And then you get to hear the Speed Racer theme a few times throughout the movie, and that's pretty cool. There's a lot of actors that I recognized in this. Like I think her name's Susan Sarandon, if I remember right, the mom. I mostly remember her as Janet from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then John Goodman as the dad, and then Christina Ricci plays Speed's girlfriend Trixie. I didn't recognize the actors that played Speed or either the two that play Rex, though the kid that plays Spritle looked really familiar to me. I don't know. He made me think of the kid that plays, I don't know if it's the same actor, Gibby's younger brother in iCarly, but I used to watch iCarly like years ago, so I don't remember if it's the same kid. I mean, this movie's from like the early 2000s, so could be. Speaking of Spritle, it's funny no matter what form of Speed Racer I'm watching, whether it's this or the anime, I always find Spritle and I don't remember what the name of the monkey is. I always just find them really annoying. I mean, they're supposed to be like the comic relief characters, but it gets to a point where it's like they're not really funny. So instead of comic relief, it's just kind of torture. We kind of made fun of them a little bit in the group, but it was mostly me. The I was gonna say introduction, but no, the scene when Speed and Trixie meet each other was pretty funny to me though. Where there's this girl that's making fun of Speed and calls him a slur, and Trixie punches her, and It's just some like little bratty girl that Trixie just straight up punches in the face, and Speed looks over and just has this look of like love towards her. I don't think he even knew what they were talking about, or he just sees Trixie punch someone in the face and is just like head over heels immediately, and then he crashes his car. But that was just kind of funny to me. Trixie's a character I usually like, where I kind of forgot about it until I was watching the movie. During the races, she's always just riding around on the helicopter. I mean, like piloting, not like riding it for fun, where she's keeping an eye on the race and stuff. There's this one part with her that's part of that childhood flashback that was also kind of funny to me, where someone sends Rex a gift in the mail, and it turns out to be a bomb, and Rex manages to get rid of it and explodes, and then the next shot is just like a close-up of Trixie, and she just smiles and goes, "Cool beans," and I'm like, dude, you could have died from this bomb explosion, and you're just saying it's like the coolest thing ever. There's a lot of backstory stuff, and I'm gonna like, spoil things and stuff. There's a lot of like backstory stuff at the beginning about Rex and his death and stuff, and it's something the movie it gives you like a ton of flashback things at the beginning, and then it kind of slows down towards the end because he's also an important character. And I remember the first time I watched the movie, I'm like, why are we getting so much character info like from the get go? But he is like a really important character, and you do kind of need to know his whole backstory and his relationship with Speed and stuff before you get introduced to some of the characters later. And I kind of forgot the reason he had left, and it's something that Speed ends up mirroring later, of just the racing committee or whatever being corrupt and all of the races being fixed, and both Speed and his brother at different points in their life leaving to kind of go investigate that, see if there's anything that they could do. Or like during the first race, Speed, I forgot that he like purposely slows down and not take over Rex's record. That was kind of nice. That was sweet. I will say the music in this absolutely feels. I don't remember if it's like the same tracks, but as I was listening to it and instrumental wise, absolutely felt like it was out of the anime. So that was really cool. I feel like since I'd watched the anime, I have a greater appreciation for the music in this movie. I really like, out of the performances, John Goodman as Pops, I think he does a really good job. I mean, I guess I'm used to him in like, I feel like he does a good job in like dad kind of roles. He just has that vibe, I guess. I liked the part when they're meeting Royalton for the first time, and he tells Royalton, like, you have way too much money. It's kind of a bit scary. And he says, like, oh, but I'll join you guys if it, like, makes Speed happy. I liked, he's talking about, like, the best decision in his life that he made, and he describes marrying his wife as, like, marrying his best friend. I thought there's something kind of sweet about that. And then the movie kind of transitions more to, like, action stuff and kind of less, kind of like speeds up, I should say, when Racer X ends up getting introduced and you get more action things. There's like a ninja that ends up trying to assassinate Speed. That was the part we made fun of the most in the movie, because literally right before the ninja ends up attacking Speed, this is like a little bit later in the movie, one of my friends said, I can't remember what the wording was. I wish I could. He made a joke about Wario, right? And then it turns out he was right, because the guy, or no, it's Pops. Pops picks up the ninja, and literally spins him around exactly like in Wario World. It's like the same spin thing and the same kind of moves and stuff. And that person was saying like, oh, someone should edit the sound effects and the Wario voice lines from that game onto that scene. I'm kind of considering doing it, but that was just funny to me, to make that connection. The one other thing with the movie where I was kind of less focused on it is there's a lot of dialogue, and it kind of becomes like a bit more of a drama at times. I understand why with like the storyline and stuff, and like the dramatic backstory stuff with Speed's brother, but then I feel like that also kind of slows the movie down a little bit. That was the one part where I was like, okay, I know they need to add more drama and things because it's a movie, but that was kind of the parts where I was less interested. The racing was really cool, though. Like the whole movie operates like it's a live-action cartoon. That's always how I describe it, and I think that's really fun. But the races just look really cool, and then eventually, like, Speed ends up getting all of the. It's weird because I remember from the show, and my friends were pointing it out too, that like Pops is the one that ends up giving all the buttons onto the Mach 5. You know, they're all like labeled after the alphabet, and they each make the car do different things. But then it ends up being, I think, a different character that ends up adding those, and it takes like a while into the story for those to be added, and they were like such a staple from the anime that as I was watching, I was thinking, like, where are they? The car's able to do more than just drive. But once they're introduced, it's pretty cool. Um, uh, Sorry, I have to like scroll through my notes. We were watching this kind of late, which okay, I can actually get to that part. Um, oh yeah. During the final race, we kind of sped up the movie. I'll talk about that in a minute. I skipped over a part. There's this one part that the characters are going through a race and they're in this like ice area, and they all end up getting out of their cars, or at least I think Speed and a couple of other people. There's like 10 people on screen, and then everyone just suddenly has a gun because they're trying to fight the bad guys or something, and they're beating people up. But that was just funny to see, me to see like the amount of people that just have. I half expected like Spider to pull out a gun too, and then they remember like they're in a race and they're like, oh yeah, we have to get back, and they go back to get back into their cars. But that was just a really funny segment of the movie. Anytime they like beat people up in this movie, it just, like I said, it looks like it's out of like a cartoon or something. It's so goofy. But yeah, anyway, towards the end of the movie, like the last 20 minutes or so, I needed to go to bed soon because I'm recording this the next day and stuff in the morning while I have like a little bit of time. But I had to get up early this morning, and it worked out fine and everything. And I was telling my friend, I'm like, I really need to go to bed because I'm going somewhere important tomorrow. And my friend was like, okay. And I was planning to leave. I was saying like, yeah, I can just finish the movie by myself later. It's fine. And then what my friend ended up doing was putting the movie at 2 times speed for the last 20 minutes, which included the final race. I will say, dialogue wise, it makes the movie actually feel more accurate to the anime because the characters, now that the movie's at 2 times speed, are talking way faster, and that's always how it felt like when watching the anime. So, if in a way, it made the movie better, and it also made it really funny because there's so many parts of the movie where it kind of reminds me of like those Google slide transitions when you move an image, or kind of like in I shouldn't be saying Google Slides. Sorry, I used to make visual novels in Google Slides, so that's always what I'm thinking about. No, it's like the thing in visual novels, I should say, when the character's portrait like moves into the screen and then moves out for them to leave. If you put the movie in 2 times speed, it's like a crazy amount of that, and it just makes the movie look way funnier, honestly. But watching the final race, because the final race is already just kind of a little bit visually stimulating and very fast. Watching that at 2 times speed just makes it so much more entertaining, honestly. And then it was kind of funny during that final race that two of my friends were humming the Mario Kart themes, but it was the ones from two different games, where one person was doing the one for Double Dash, and the other person was doing the one for Mario Kart 8, and that just made it so much better as well. But yeah, the tracks in this game basically are like live action Mario Kart pretty much. Like even the one at the beginning when it's the childhood flashback where Rex and Speed are racing and stuff. It looks. Someone in the group was saying it looked kind of like the not Waluigi pinball, but oh gosh, I think Wario Stadium or something like that from from like Double Dash or something. I feel like I have to go play Mario Kart after playing this game. Oh yeah, and then the ending, where they reveal about like Racer X's identity, where Speed originally thinks that he's Rex, and then it's not Rex, and then it turns out, wait, it is Rex after all, and he had to get like plastic surgery and stuff, and it's like a whole thing. Yeah, the first time in the movie, first time I watched it, I didn't even think of it that hard, but yeah, now that I think about the name where it's Rex and then it becomes Racer X, that sounds the same as Rex. I should have immediately caught that first time I watched this movie because it's so simple, but I didn't. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this. It's always a fun watch. I actually, like, it's not, like, a good movie, but it's a fun movie, and it actually, the original series is so freaking wacky anyway, that it actually, I think, does work pretty good as an adaptation, from what I remember anyway. Alright, bye bye.